Hey guys, so we're gonna have to read this book again. I'm so glad the heater just turned on. So yeah, we're gonna read this book again. Of course, and you're probably wondering what happens in the background. I'm in my basement. Okay, so don't even ask. So yeah, this is the same kid, Elijah of Buxton. So you know, we're just we're just gonna get started now. Um, Chapter 3, Fish Head Chunking. It was Friday evening, and I had finished my lessons at school and started walking to the stable to do my chores. I was gonna have to work faster than I do most days because a bunch of people were counting on me to bring some fish. Mr. CG? Eddie, bro? Is this? I don't know if y'all can see that, but I don't know, man. Was next to the barn raking through his truck patch. Good afternoon, Mr. CG. CG. Oh, I'm pretty sure that says hello. Hello there, Elijah. I always can tell when you on your way. Old Flapjack get worked up about 15 minutes before you got here. Is what he meant. I don't know why people say horses and mules are dull, Mr. Seger, especially old Flapjack. He's gotta be the smartest mule ever. Mr. CG snorted while he thought I lost my mind. Well, it's good you here, boy. Now go in and down. Animal is waiting for you. I separate my chores at the table into two parts: the working part and the enjoying part. The working part is doing things you wouldn't do unless you were forced to. I get them done first. Things like cleaning the stalls and shoveling manure, honor, I don't know, and taking it to the fertilizer pile and feeding and watering the animals. This takes a considerable good amount of time. Hey, it is though. It really does. The second part of my chores, and the second part of my chores, the enjoying part, is divided into brushing the animals, tending to their hoofs, and my favorite part, helping make them comforted by keeping the horse flies off them. See, nah, bro. These words are mixed up, okay? These words are mixed up, bro. It weren't just for their good that this was my favoritist job. I was getting something out of it too. I was getting flies to use for bait. I figured out that this chore fits right in with the Buxton Settlement's creed: one helping one to uplift all. It's the way all us in the settlement look out for one another. We don't expect nothing in return, but if we see someone that needs a hand, we rush to give it. Good things always come from that. I got my fly swath, pulled a milking stool next to old Flapjack, and waited. It weren't long before a good-sized fly lit just above his rear hoof. Crack! Bang it all! Blang it all! What do they got me saying on here, bro? I ain't the type to make the mistake of cursing out loud like that. But sometimes swear words will jump out of you before you have a chance to remember they ain't proper. Those words came out of me from being frustrated. Bruh. I don't think blang at all is a cuss word, but hey, this is Buxton. This came out like a little bit after slavery, so wow. I weren't swatting flies just for the sake of killing them, and sometimes I got a little too strong. I'd been swatting horseflies for so many years that I could tell by the sound of the fly swat made once it hit if I was gonna be able to use the fly for fishing or not. And crack was a sound that most times weren't too good. I looked under old Flapjack and I was right. The fly was in the dust and nothing was moving on him, except for the green guts that were leaking out of his bust up back end. I picked him up by his wings, blew him off, and dropped him in the dead pouch. Hey, I mean, like, I would kind of enjoy the same thing, you know? I kind of enjoy killing bugs. Two more horseflies landed on old Flapjack's flank, and it was a chance to make up for the mistake I'd just made. I mean the hitting the fly too hard mistake, not the swearing mistake. Mr. Travis tells us that swearing's the kind of mistake that once you do it, there ain't no way to make up for it. There is, y'all. There is. I studied the two horseflies that had landed on Old Flat real careful. When a couple of them land close together like this, it ain't long before they take notice of one the another and quit seeing anything else. It's kind of like they put a spell or a conjure on each other, and truth told, once they do, it's easier to hit two at once than it is to hit one. The two flies saw each other at the near the same time and froze their moving, trying to see which one was toughest. This weren't the right thing to do, cause weren't neither one of them as my fly saw, and it was about to do a whole lot more bad to them than any other horsefly ever could. Padop. Hey, I don't know what this means. Padop. Now that was a good sound. That meant I hadn't hit them hard enough to break no fly bones or nothing. But I had hit them, so they were gonna be a little dumbstruck. Most likely they wouldn't be doing no more flying, but they should still be alive and kicking. I looked under the mulligan, and there were wings still a-buzzing, and each one of them spinning in circles on the ground, raising up two little clouds of dust. I quick snatched them and put them in the live pouch with the other ones that I was gonna use for big fish bait. The preacher'll tell me anyone that listens to the biggest, most ordinary horseflies in the world live right here in Buxton. Mostly tells the new free slaves that come here 'cause he don't love nothing more than letting them know how amazing him and the rest of us folks in Buxton are. But truth hold, it's mostly how amazing he is. What? One time, 7 free slaves came into the settlement all at once, and the preacher took it on himself to welcome them. This was before the elders found out what he was doing and quick made sure it didn't happen again. He told those 7 new free people about what difficult days were ahead. Sorry, y'all. I don't know when this night will end, but I will tell you one thing. I have to read 6 chapters, and I'm only on chapter 3, so after this one, I have to read another 2 more. Winters, he shouted at them. In your worst nightmares, you can't imagine how bad the winters up here are. Got so cold during the winter of 53 that flames on candles froze solid. It looks like it's from Russia. Yeah, it looks like it was from like the north of Russia. Even the sun was frozen in place halfway across the sky. It didn't thaw out and commence moving again till the summer of 54. 7 months of nothing but sunlight, which explains why the horseflies up there are unnaturally large and ornery, since they had 2 growing seasons instead of the usual one. Okay? The preacher liked waving his arms around whilst he was talking, and he was really going at it to try to impress these new folks. I was out in the field plowing with my mule that summer, he said, which should have let on that this was gonna be a powerful stretching of the truth. 'Cause don't no one around here ever recall seeing reins of a mule nor any other kind of working tool in the preacher's hands. When suddenly these 2 horseflies start buzzing overhead, and one asks to the other, "What do you think? Should we eat that mule here or drag him into the woods and polish him off?" The second fly says, "Let's eat him here. If we take him into the woods, the full-grown horseflies will snatch him away from us." I ain't seen no signs of horseflies that big around here, but it could be true. The preacher's a mighty smart man. I only know that the fish at Old Flapjack's Lake sure do think that these horseflies are the best thing, or the best eating they've ever done. How many pages do we have left, bro? I'm already getting tired of this. Seriously. Ain't no way. Bro. I'm sorry, y'all. This is gonna be an hour long. Oh yeah, this is a whole hour. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Gang. Ain't. Oh, I ain't gonna be making it through this video today. Okay. Once I got enough flies and checks around the stable to make sure I done everything, I went back out to Mrs. CG. "Everything's done, Mrs. CG. Elijah, when you says everything's done, ain't no need for me to check. Ain't none of the other children look after that stable the way you do. When's your next day?" "Monday, sir." "Well then, see you on Monday." "Yes, sir." "Sir, is it gonna be alright if I take old Flapjack out for a spell?" It was the same thing every Friday, and he never said no. But Ma and Pa always say it's polite and proper to ask, and not to take no assumptions. Why, let me think a second, boy. Is it alright for you to take that old meal out? Mr. CG leaned on the rake he was using and kind of stared up into the clouds. Then he said, I think they done called off the horse racing for this evening, Elijah. Seemed like all them horses, even Jingle Boy and Conqueror, done pulled out once they got wind old Flapjack was running again. Figure they ain't got no chance at whooping that mule. So it don't seem like you taking him is gonna be a problem. Mr. CG came from Mississippi only a year ago, and Ma says we go give him some allowance for the kind of things he thinks is funny. So I give him a little laugh every time he makes one of them bad jokes. Yeah, I think that was a bad joke too, buddy. I could tell Flapjack was raring to go, but let's know what to look for. You might not see it. His raring to go looks a powerful lot like his not wanting to move look. Soon I led him out of the stable and started off on the road that runs through the main part of the settlement. Why is there no spaces? Okay. I know there weren't no rush to catch him. I know exactly where he was going. Once he got out of the stable, he led straight down the road before he cut off into the woods, heading for the lake he first took me to about a year ago. I had plenty of time to put away the tools and the wheelbarrow and gather up my fly pouches and my chunking stones and my net basket and the strings that I use for holding the fish I catch. When I got done, I cut through some fields and caught old Flapjack just as he passed Miss Karna's house. I jumped up on his back and let him carry me to our secret lake. Most folks say it's wrong, but if I had my druthers, I'd ride a mule over a horse any day. Horses do too much shaking of your insides when you ride them, and they're a long way up if you lose your grip and fall. Mules don't jar nothing and when they walk. They like slow and easy travel. They have a way of rocking you gentle like a baby in a crib. If you don't fall asleep first, you get a chance to think about things when you ride a mule. With a horse, you don't get to think about nothing but hoping you don't fall off and get. I don't want to say this, bro. Bro, this is so R-rated, but cold cocked by their hoofs. If you fall off a mule, you're already close to the ground and got plenty of time to roll out the way of their feet. Slow as old Flapjack is, if you fell off him, you'd have time enough to take a nap before you have to worry about him stomping on you. Okay, 19 minutes in. Well, more than 19 minutes in, but still. This is tiring. Flapjack left the road and turned off into the woods. Just after we crossed out of the settlement and passed the preacher's house, it didn't look like the preacher was home. Not that I have stopped and called on him. It's just that lately since he's seen Jesus has been giving me gifts, he lets me come with him and watch as he practices shooting off his mystery pistol. It just was last month that the preacher snuck up on my Willis. I was out in the Atlas clearing chunking rocks. He came out from behind a tree and said, "Did I see what I think I saw, or are my eyes deceiving me?" He sounded so surprised that I looked around the clearing, expecting something peculiar to be going on. "What did you see, sir?" The preacher said, "I saw you, Elijah. I saw what you were doing, and I'm afraid it has the look of conjuring to it." I couldn't understand what he was talking about, I was sure I hadn't done anything that no one could claim was conjuring. I said, "No, sir, I would never do nothing like conjuring." I don't know what that means, by the way. I weren't doing nothing but chunking stones. He said, "That's what I'm talking about. I've never seen a soul throw a rock like you do. And Elijah, I have to tell you, I'm quite concerned. I have to do some serious pondering on this to see if it's the work of the devil. You do know that being left-handed is one of the sure signs of being Satan's clutches, don't you?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Keep that in mind. Come on with me. I'm going a little deeper in the woods to practice shoot, and bring some of those rocks you have there." What? Bruh, mind y'all, being left-handed it's not the devil, bro. It is not the devil's. Believe it or not, that is not Satan's clutches, okay? Being left-handed is not Satan's clutches, bro. That, I don't know why. I don't know why this man is bullying this kid. Anyways, I told Ma I weren't gonna go no farther than the Atlas clearing, but since I was gonna be with the preacher, I figured it'd be alright if I followed him. So, besides, if it meant I'd get to see him shooting off his mystery pistol, weren't nothing gonna stop me. And you're gonna die. Okay. I spent lots of time sneaking through the woods, mostly at night, but I didn't recognize the way the preacher started leading me. All I know for sure that it was where me and Cooter been warned not to go. Off toward the way where some of the white people that didn't like us lived. Pa told us it was a way full up of with black bears and bats, and worst of all, millions of rattling snakes. Listen to your parents, man. That's why you gotta listen, bro. Because why is you going there, bro? Why is you going there? If I saw places with this band, hey, I would have said a completely different story, bro. This is exactly what gets people killed, bro. Me and the preacher must have walked for half an hour, but I couldn't be sure. When you don't know where you are, when you're heading, where you are heading, time don't seem to run by like it normally do. But with every step we took, I was getting more and more disappointed in this new area. From the way Pa had warned me, I'd always pictured these woods as having so many bears hanging out of the trees, and the sunlight would have been blocked from hitting the ground. I'd always pictured that there'd be so many rattling snakes hissing and shaking these parts, pause, that you'd near about go deaf from the racket they made. But we'd been walking a good long time, and there was still plenty of sunlight, and I hadn't heard rattle the first. We hadn't seen one bat. Finally, we got to another clearing, and the preacher said, "I'm going to give you some tests, Elijah, and I'm hoping that they prove you haven't been conjuring, because if you have, it's my responsibility to let the world be spread." Pause. I weren't sure what he meant by that, but I know it wasn't good. He said, "I'm going to set these pieces of wood up about 20 paces, and I want to see how many of them you can hit." I started thinking this over. Hitting something from 20 paces isn't nothing. But I wondered if I should miss one or two of them on purpose so the preacher wouldn't see no signs of conjuring. But this was the preacher, and he was so smart it'd be hard to fool him. He was always telling me that he'd forgot more than I ever known, which don't make a lot of sense. But it was probably gonna be best on me if I chugged for real and didn't hold back. The preacher walked off 20 steps and set up 5 hunks of wood about 3 feet apart. What? 3 feet apart, one from another. He came back and told me, "Let me see how many of them you can hit before I count 5. I put 2 stones in my right hand and 3 on my left. The preacher raised the eyebrow. He hadn't ever seen nothing like this, and said, "Set, go, 1. I throwed left, right, left, right, left. The preacher only counted to 3 before I had all 5 of those wood hunks flying through the air. He looked at me in a way that told me he thought for sure I was a conjuring. I didn't say nothing, but he walked back the 20 paces and this time set up 10 pieces of wood. He came back and drew his mystery pistol out of its fancy holster and said, "When I say go, you hit the 5 on the right, and I'm going to hit the 5 on the left. I got my rocks ready. Go." The loud way the pistol exploded right next to me thrown me off, and I missed the first piece of the wood, but quick knocked down the others. By the time I'd finished, the preacher had only shot 3 of the wood hunks and was sighting in on number 4. He stopped and looked at me like he's puzzling, then said, "I'm going to have to do some more contemplating over this. On the one hand, this might be an act of conjuring." He put his right hand out like he's expecting something to drop on it. On the other hand, his left hand came up. We might be witnessing a gift from Jesus himself. Bro, what is conjuring, bro? He wrung his hands together like he was fixing to pray. I'm not ready to come right out and say whether this is conjuring or the Lord, but whatever it sure is unnatural for a boy to be tossing stones like that. A few days later, the preacher let me and other folks know it had been showed to him that my rock juggling was given to me as a gift from Jesus. He told folks my arm and eye were so true that I could knock the spots off of a ladybug without harming her at all if I took the notion to do so. He said what happened to a stone after I chunked it was like a ball shot out of an old muzzleloader refiles. It weren't like it weren't the quickest thing getting to where it was aimed, but once it got there, all sorts of Who Struck John busted loose. I believed the preacher when he told me what I got was a gift from the Lord. But that didn't mean I didn't have no doubts about it from time to time. I'd been meaning to ask our Sabbath school teacher, Mr. Travis, if it was blaspheming to say this, but it seemed to me if this rock chunkling really was a gift from Jesus, it would be the sort of thing that would be there forever, and for me it weren't at all. This was a gift that needed lots of practice, lots of practicing, else it went away. Mom, and Pa weren't too impressed by the preacher saying these things either. When I told Pa that what God showed on the preacher, he asked how come Jesus only choose certain folks to talk direct to, and how come they's always the ones what ain't got nothing at all in common with the Bible. Maybe I started dozing. I was surprised when old Flapjack slowed down and I felt sticker bushes snatching at my organs. He started picking his way through some blackberries, and I know we'd just about reached our secret lake. Okay, hello again. Sorry I kinda took a break for a good day. And yes, I am wearing the same clothes as yesterday, so let's just continue this then. It was 30 bushes that old Flap spent all his time in Wayville. I fished. I hopped off his back and walked down to the water. I went clean over to the other side of the lake and laid down. My 2 pouches and my tote sack and net basket and pulled off my boreans and all my What? What? This kid. You took off your clothes? Near a lake? Hey now, Silna. At least bring some swimwear. Okay? If you don't. Okay, if you. Let's just continue, bro. I divide this lake into 2 parts. First, there's the fishing part, which is on the side where I came in at by all the cattails and lily pads. Then there's the swimming part, which was where I'd walked to now. I jumped in and let all the sweat from my trunk and riding Flapjack float of off of me. I don't know how long I spent bathing, but after a while, I saw splashes and waves coming from the other side of the lake, and I knew that fish had started feeding. I pulled my clothes back on, keeping for my borgans, and stockings. I picked up my sack and 2 pouches and net basket and walked back over to the fishing side of the lake, right near where old Flapjack was still eating blackberries. I could I could hear him snorting and chawing and going at 'em pretty good. There was a perfect spot for rock fishing just before where the cattles got thick. I opened the dead fly pouch and picked out about 4 of them that had a good amount of juices leaked out, and I tossed them right into the spot near the cattles. This would get the little fish riled up. They jump, they bump at the flies and try to pull them under and would raise a ruckus that make the big fish wonder what the commotion was for. I moved till the light was just so that I could see the flashing of the little fish's scales. I went into my tote sack and picked out two good stones, one for my right hand and one for my left. Next, I reached into the live fly pouch and plucked out 2 that had a good bit of fight left in them. I tossed these flies and at the fishing spot, and one of them still had enough life in him to fly about a little. But that didn't last long and soon plopped into the water. Both of these flies weren't accustomed to be wet and started whirring and splashing and skimming across the top of the lake. There's nothing about the way those halfway horse flies move on the water that scares the small fish away and drives the big fish berserk. If I'd done everything right, the big ones wouldn't have no choice but to come barreling out of the cattles and snatch at the flies. I saw the little fish part round one of the flies, and all of a sudden, there was a goldly silverfish flash shooting out of the lily pads. It's hard to explain, but I felt it more than I saw it. Yeah, it's like you heard it before you saw it. I turned left. The rock and the fish and the fly all met up at the same time. It ain't boasting when I say it was a perfect throw. I can say that cause for the throw to be perfect, two thing two things would have what? 2 things could have happened. You got to chunk the fish so he's knocked senseless right off and stays at the top of the water, and 2, the rock has got to bounce off him and land far enough away that it don't make no kind of splash that'll scare other big fish. After this rock got done chunking at the fish in the head, it skipped 4 times across the water and slipped down in the lake, quiet as a duck going after minnows. I throwed my net basket out and hauled the fish in. It was a good sized bass. I struggled it. I strung it up and put it back in the water. I don't know why it is, but something about that basket don't worry the fish too much, and I can toss it in over and over and not scare them at all. Maybe it's 'cause the fish ain't real smart. I knew that. I knew if I was a fish, I would have looked at it different. If I saw one of my fish friends go after a fly and all of a sudden he was floating on the water, not moving, and had a big knot in his head, on his head, I think my appetite would leave me. And even if it didn't, I sure wouldn't have no enthusiasm for the next horsefly that showed up in the water. I would have been smart enough to put one and one together and would have chose something off the bottom of the lake for supper. But I suppose if you're partial to swallowing horseflies whole, it's a pretty good sign that smartness ain't one of the things you'll be specially blessed with. I chunked four more big fish and missed on two when old Flapjack quit eating berries and gave a strange snort. I stopped moving and looked at his direction. From knowing this old mule, I know he'd seen something. Some folks have watchdogs. I got a watch. He started right back up with his blackberry eating sounds, but I knew something wasn't right. I could tell he'd seen someone and that it was someone he knew. I looked real careful all along the blackberry bushes and trees but didn't see anything. I waited and waited, then went back to the rock fishing. I missed 3 out of the next 5, and I knew it's 'cause my mind was still wondering why old Flap made that sound. It seemed like if you weren't paying all your attention to rock fishing, you weren't gonna be too good at it. I tried to quit fretting, but still missed on 2 of the next 5 stones I chunked. Then the flesh quit biting. I had me 7 good bass and 3 big perch. I summed them up in my head as 4 for me, Ma, and Pa, 2 for Mr. Leary, 2 for Mr. Sadie, and 2 that I was hoping to swap with Miss Brown since I knew she was baking today. That totaled up to 10. I emptied what was left of the dead flies in the water and emptied the live flies on a rock. If those flies ever did come around and got their senses back, it only was fair that their lives weren't all the way wasted and they'd have a chance to fly away. Then I thought about how pesky they are and what they eat. I changed my mind and brushed them all in the water. I gathered all my throwing stones in my pouch and started putting my bourgons on when a man's voice boomed out from behind me. Now that was the most amazing thing I ever seen. I whirled round and at the same time picked up a stone ready to chunk it at whoever said that had snuck up on me. My left arm went back and the man raised his hands and said, "No, it's me." It was the preacher. Oh my goodness, bro, this guy. My breathing came back to me and I said, "I'm terrible, sorry sir. I weren't expecting no one to be out here." The preacher came out of the bushes and said, "How many of those fish did you stone like that, Elijah?" I pulled my string out of fish out of the water and showed them to them. He said, "Sweet baby Jesus, the boys out here fishing without line nor hook, knocking fish in the head with rocks." Well, that really does confirm, Elijah. You've been given a rare gift from the Lord. I'm reminded of Mark chapter 6, verse 33 through 44, where Jesus fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Oh yeah, he did do that. He multiplied just a little bit of fish and a little bit of bread to like it's like thousands upon thousands of them, and then I fed everybody with them. So like that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But instead of turning 2 fish into food for thousands, Elijah, you've turned stones into fish. Maybe turning water to wine is more impressive and practical, but what you've done is no mean feat either. I don't know. 46 minutes in, bro. The preacher put his hand on my forehead and said, I've been thinking about how we can best use this gift, Elijah, and I think that we can do something with it to help the whole settlement. You do want to help the settlement, don't you? This was strange. This was strange talk from the for the preacher. He didn't live direct in the settlement. Him and a few other escaped people lived just outside our land, just 'cause they didn't want to follow all the settlement's rules. I said, yes, sir, I want to help the settlement, but how? The preacher said, now don't you waste a moment thinking about it. All I needed to know was if you were willing to help, and now that I see that you're the fine Christian boy I thought you were, we'll work this out together. I said, yes, sir, but I was wondering. The preacher raised his hand and said, you know what, Elijah? The Lord has revealed to me that since he has given you this gift, I should treat you with a little more respect. I should quit treating you like a child and start treating you like the man you truly are. Hey, gang. I'd rather be treated like a child then. I would say no immediately. Paul says that Paul says when someone sweet talks you like this, you got to be real careful with the next words that come out of their mouth. He says the sweet talking is like a rattling snake's rattles. It's like you're getting a warning that you're about to get bit. The preacher says, so I was wondering, since you near full grown, maybe you would like to come with me, young, and see if your eye is as good at shooting this pistol as it is for throwing stones. I haven't forgotten about the promise I made you a while back. The preacher pulled his jacket back and showed me his fancy pistol. Every thought I had about rattling snakes, snake words, and sweet talking and bites flew away. Then I remembered what happened last time and how when it came to my turn to shoot off the pistol, the preacher said he'd run out of bullets. You said you ain't finding me, sir? I don't really get to shoot this time. He looks like I hurt his feelings. He said, Elijah, I'm talking to you man to man, and you have doubts? I said, no, sir. I just didn't think. The preacher said, good. Let's go on over to that clearing and do some talk practicing. I said, yes, sir. Yes. Oh. But as soon as I said it, I started thinking about things like what if old Flapjack didn't want to go no farther? And what would Mom and Pa say if they knew I was shooting off the preacher's mystery pistol? And how was I going to explain to Ma why I was getting back so late? And folks were depending on me to bring them fish. I told the preacher, sir, I don't think I can do it right now. I gotta get back. Ma's expecting me to bring some fish home for supper, and it's starting to get late. The preacher said, "You're right, Elijah. You're right, and that goes to prove my point about you being more man than child. What you've just done is show responsibility. We can shoot this gun on another day. Now you just go right ahead and take those fish back to your ma." The preacher waited a second and said, "That seems like an awful lot of fish for 3 people. I was wondering, is your family going to eat all 10 of those fish?" "No, sir. Usually I give them to Mr. Segri and some to Mr. Lorry." He said, "A non-Christian thing to do." Now, I was also wondering, Elijah, if you know anything about the word called typing. I don't know what that means. "Yes, sir. Mr. Travis taught me about that in Sabbath classes. It's giving a tenth of your belongings to works of and your works to the Lord." He said yes to the Lord through his servant year here on earth. What do you suppose a tenth of those fish is? 3, 4? The preacher might have thought he was the most educated man around Buxton, but it seemed like he was super powerful bad at doing fractions. Gang, that ain't. Yeah, that's most definitely. Yeah, he ain't too good at fractions, bro. A tenth of 10 fish is 1, by the way. Just to let you know. A tenth of 10 fish is just 1. It's just 1 fish. This sucker said 3, 4. Nah, Jay. At least it didn't say, "I wish you would." 6, 7. At least it didn't say that. I told him, "No, sir. The tenth of those fish is 1." The preacher said, "True, if you figured a tenth by numbers, but I was thinking figuring tenth by age. Let me hold on to both of those strings for a minute." Oh, he gonna run away and steal him, bro. Bro, like, dude. A tenth is only 1, and this sucker said 3 and 4. This guy is not good at fractions, cause, bro, even me a 13-year-old could do that. Anywho, I handed him all the fish. He said, "You're good at knowing sums, aren't you?" I said, "I'm tolerable good long as it don't get stretched into geometry." Hey, I'm working on geometry in school though. It's not very good. Believe me, it is not. I mean, like, it's somewhat easy, but no. I do not like geometry. The preacher commenced pointing at each fish and calling out numbers and telling me to keep track of the total. This one's about 14 years old. This one's 12. This one just turned 18. It was the most amazing thing. Some of them, he had to look into their mouths to get by the age. And some of them he could tell just by holding up, but the preacher knew that they knew the age of every one of the fishes. By the time he was done, I totaled up 122 years. What the freak, bro? So what's 10% of 122, Elijah? Ooh. The 10th of that. I would like to do the math on paper, except for the fact that it's late. Anywho, I moved the decimal points without using pencil nor paper and said 1/10 of 122 years comes to 12 full years and 2/10 of a year, sir. The preacher pulled the biggest two bass and biggest perch off the stringers and said, "This perch is 10 years old, and these bass are 1 year old each. How many years is that?" 10. Oh my goodness. 10 plus 1 equals 12, sir. So what's left? 2/10 of a year, sir. And how much time does that equal? I guessed that's about 2 years. That's about 2 months and a little, sir. He pulled the next biggest bass off the string and said, I was thinking we should throw this one back since he's only a month and a half old. But that's close enough to 2 months that he balances things out nicely. I'll just keep him. I didn't mean to show no disrespect, but I couldn't help frowning. I started with 10 and now I was down to 6. And even though I hadn't particular worthy at my schooling, it still seemed it'd take a whole lot of doggone humbug algebra and some tick oration geometry to make 10% of 10 come out to 4. The preacher put the 4 fish on one of the strings and said, I think I'll call Sister Carolina and see if she's had fish lately. Maybe she can fly him up. Then he was gone, and so were 4 of my fish. Hard as I try, I can't see that one as 1/10 of 10. Bruh, you were right actually, because, like, come on now. Anyways, I'm finally done with chapter 3 of this book, and tomorrow I might do chapter 4. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you can like, subscribe, and please turn on that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I post some brand new videos. And thank you everyone for watching. Bye bye. And well, none of you might actually look at this, but still.